Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by the Chief Agricultural Editor of SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, as well as the 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director, Ryan Young. I'm Doug Falconer, Agriculture Director at GX94 Yorkton. And the big news, of course, this week was some more cases of bovine tuberculosis in Saskatchewan. So that's a story we're following pretty closely, Ryan.
That's right. Thanks to Kevin, who actually got the news first from the CFIA and passed it on to us. And I followed up with the CFIA as well as Christina Betker, the CEO of the Saskatchewan Cattle Association, and the Chief Veterinary Officer, Dr. Stephanie Smith. And from what I gathered from Dr. Smith, their primary role is just being supportive of the CFIA since they're the ones leading the investigation, as there's three additional cases of bovine TB found in the same herd as the first case on November 29th. So they're doing a lot of further testing to see the prevalence of the disease, if it's spread anywhere else. They're going to do contact tracing as well, and who knows how long that process is going to take from here on out. But nonetheless, the Ministry of Agriculture is providing support wherever they can, whether that's in testing or whatever the CFIA needs. I know that they're passing information along to affected producers and the affected producer, excuse me, as well. Kind of a tough situation overall for the producer. I feel for whoever that is dealing with this case. But I know Smith said that there's mental health support available, and they'll just be there to do what they can to try to make this a smooth and efficient process as possible. And that was kind of the similar message with Christina Betker. They're kind of more in talks with the affected producer, and from what she told me, they were dealing with it pretty well given the circumstances, which I was kind of mildly surprised. If I was to put myself in that person's shoes, I would just be way in over my head and just depressed about everything because that's a person's livelihood, right? So that's kind of the main points from those two individuals. And I also got comment from the provincial agriculture minister, Daryl Harrison, and he being a rancher himself, he can definitely feel for the producer that's dealing with this. So he hopes that this can be drawn to a quick conclusion as well. So that's kind of the high points of the news around the bovine TB investigation to this point.
Kevin, your thoughts on the bovine tuberculosis situation?
Well, it's really too bad that they found an additional three cases in that herd because those cattle, those heads of livestock didn't come from that herd. They came from someone else's herd, so they're going to have to trace back, and they're going to have to trace all the animals that left this producer's herd and went somewhere else. So this is going to involve many other producers, months, if not a year of testing, and probably more herds being depopulated. So this pain is going to grow. It's not just one producer that's going to feel this. There could be more. There could be many more, depending upon how the trace out goes.
As for cattle prices, that was something you were monitoring, Ryan, when you spoke with Emily Schmidt from the Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture on prices this week.
Yeah, and they're still pretty high for this past week. Some market demand and cattle futures prices were supporting the feeder, steer, and heifer prices in the province for this past week, as well as the warmer weather that we've had recently. That's kind of helped things in terms of bringing cattle over to market. In terms of those numbers, there was 8,200 head that was marketed this past week. That's up from 5,400 the week prior, but it's a bit down from the amount of head of cattle that was sold at the same week last year of just over 9,100. So prices are still good, but we'll see where it goes in terms of the next week. If that market demand remains and the future prices continue to support it, and not to mention at the least the tariffs and how that's going to affect the market. So a lot of moving parts all around.
Kevin, of course, cattle price is still fairly decent, and of course, you had a story regarding the Livestock Price Insurance Program.
Yes, through the Livestock Price Insurance Program, producers can actually lock in the best prices ever available under that program, allowing them to lock in a floor price for delivery in the fall, I would encourage all producers to watch the prices and the premiums in that program, that as they fluctuate. I'm gratified to see that on the day that I talked with Jodie Griffin, the coordinator for the Livestock Price Insurance Program, producers could lock in a floor price for a 600-pound steer of $2,600. The premium for that was about $66, a 2.5% premium. So the worries in the Canadian livestock industry have not yet affected livestock price insurance. That's the best prices available ever under that program, and a very profitable floor price that producers can lock in at a reasonable premium. Goodness knows where the prices and the premiums will go as we move forward.
As for grain and oilseed prices, Ryan, you spoke with Adam Picallo, and we saw canola prices, shoot downwards for the most part this week.
Yeah, that's as the new contracts are starting to get active now. We're moving on from the March futures over to the May contracts for both canola and wheat. And got some bullet points here from my chat with Adam. And one of the things that he did mention in terms of factors was the long positions on the March contracts aren't necessarily transitioning over to May. So they're aggressively moving out of their long-term positions. And also for canola, the soybean market has been down lately, and there's a bit of profit taking as a result. So producers kind of taking what they can from any rallies that come up. Adam also did mention that clients heard $14.50 a bushel for canola was a good price to sell at. So whether producers take advantage of that, it's ultimately up to them, and it's good to do some due diligence before making those types of decisions. In terms of the wheat futures, that was kind of down about 7 cents today for the May Minneapolis wheat contract. It closed at 5.97 and 3/4 a bushel. Going back to canola, I almost forgot. The May contract closed at 651.10 a metric ton, down $7 on the day. Going back to the wheat, in terms of factors, Adam said there's really been no bullish news lately, but did note over the next 5 days there's some moisture forecast for the eastern part of the grain belt in states like Kansas, and it's supposed to be dry on the western plains, so kind of the opposite there. Obviously, one of the big things to kind of look out for next week is the tariffs, as the 25% tariffs are to take effect March 4th, but I'm not waiting with bated breath. I wouldn't be surprised if U.S. President Trump kind of changes his mind at the 11th hour, but we'll see when they come.
Kevin, your thoughts on grain and oilseed prices going down this week?
Just a quote I heard from a couple of different analysts this week, in that when you see major changes in grain prices, when it's going up, it's like an escalator and it goes up stepwise and gradual. When prices decide they're coming down, they can be more like an elevator and drop very quickly. So I would advise producers to take profits where and when they can.
We also saw this week the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities put out a news release calling for the reinstatement of strychnine for for getting rid of Richardson Ground Squirrels. Ryan, you spoke with their acting president Bill Huber on that.
Yeah, and that's to deal with the rising population of Richardson ground squirrels that have come up in recent years. Obviously, strychnine was banned in March of last year by Health Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency, due in part to some environmental concerns, the belief that there's other alternatives and methods out there available, so eliminating strychnine wouldn't impact management much, as well as the concern around the chances of secondary poisoning. So that basically means some wildlife going up to a carcass that had been poisoned by strychnine, and when they consume that carcass, they would be exposed to strychnine as well. So that's kind of what that means, and part of the reason why strychnine was ultimately banned from all uses. But when talking with Bill, he said that they want, again, that reinstated because RMs and farmers, they've used other alternatives, but there's nothing that works better than strychnine. And this is something that hasn't been, not the first time, rather, that this issue has come up. It's, according to him, it was banned once before, then reinstated, and now banned again. So we got the SARM annual convention coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if that issue comes up again and it becomes another resolution that SARM is going to deal with.
Kevin, what's your take on the strychnine issue?
I think they're flogging a dead issue. It's been banned because it causes secondary issues with um, predators such as hawks. I don't think that it's going to be reinstated. I don't think Saskatchewan is going to circumvent national rules to reinstate it. And all of the testing indicates there are some replacement products that work nearly as well as strychnine without the secondary poisoning issue. So, at the risk of making people at SARM upset with me, I think they're barking up the wrong tree.
All right. And finally, Tuesday, March 4th is the latest deadline that we've had concerning possible 25% tariffs on Canadian goods in the United States. We did hear earlier this week that Donald Trump was talking about pushing it back to April 2nd, but right now it's still March 4th. And Kevin, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what we can say. It seems like a mass confusion, but if I was betting, I would bet that those tariffs are going to come in place this time. But as Ryan indicated, anything is possible and changes can happen at the spur of the moment with the administration in the US.
All right, with that, that'll conclude this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com Kevin Hursh, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next time.